I am Professor Srinivas Reddy. I am retired from Kakti University as Professor of Public Administration. Elton Mayo's contribution, one of the important compliments to Elton Mayo, the next school, perhaps we are going to discuss in the next lecture, would be the behavioral approach. And Elton Mayo was not aware of the term behavioralism and all that, but yet, in retrospect, the critics would point out that he was a first behavioralist. And therefore, the compliment that was paid to him was that he was a behavioralist before the term behavioralism became popular. Second, he is considered to be the father of industrial sociology. Anybody interested in industrial production should also look at industry as a social microcosm. So they have to see the reflections of society in the industry, and they have to give enough attention to social aspects. Thirdly, he has demonstrated the power of informal organization. And in fact, he goes to the extent of saying that informal organization is not the counter of formal organization. And there is a feeling among some administrators that informal organization spoils the formal organization. And Elton Mayo goes to the extent of saying if there is no informal organization, it has to be created. There are several advantages of informal organization. Number one, informal organization is spontaneous. So one doesn't get bored spending time in an informal way. But in a formal meeting, one gets exhausted, becomes tired very soon. So it is spontaneous, and it is touching your interests, common interests and all that. Secondly, informal organization follows informal communication. Informal communication is quicker. Like the grapevine, the metaphor of grapevine is used here to connote the idea that like the grapevine spreads very fast all around, this also informal communications travels very fast. So if you have to convey something very important, informal communication is also a route. And sometimes it is not possible to reach communication only through formal communication, because of the reason that subordinates may not pay attention to formal communication, because formal communication is always top down, and it comes with certain, laced with authority, and it says that with certain compulsion, and it is a kind of ordering, where the subordinate has no way but he has to follow. But informal communication appeals to the good sense of the person, and it tries to convince the fellow to do things and all that. Therefore, this is the power of informal communication. Some critics have pointed out that if you have total informal organization, there will be end of organization. Formal organization has rules and regulations. Informal organization is one which is based on norms, shared sentiments, shared ideas, and then traditions, some of these things. And in practice, it is found that no organization can ever sustain itself on totally informal relations. A formal organization is inescapable, and there cannot be organization without informal organization. The critics essentially point out that informal organization is important, but Elton Mayo has overdone the importance of informal organization by saying that informal organization has all the merits, but too much of informal organization is also bad. In fact, some of the current problems of public administration in India are because of too much of informality. I think if one were to look at the government employees, they carry office work home, and homework they bring to office. They do many things on office phone, and perhaps they do things for office from the home using the... So there is no strict separation between the formal and informal, and sometimes this is also creating problems. An employee may not come on time and all that. So formal organization can be tempered with informal organization, and some of the elements of informal organization, they are added to the formal organization becomes more effective. Anyway, the criticism remains. And one more pungent criticism against George Elton Mayo is that his sociology. He preached a kind of sociology known as cow sociology. What it essentially means is that they assume human being to be a cow. Cow is a domesticated animal, very soft and docile animal. Whatever the owner bids, the keeper bids, the cow does. It doesn't, like a bull, it will not charge the owner. The cow is always obliging and all that. So he has this notion of human nature, And he says that happy worker is very productive worker. I think too much of hedonism, too much of pleasure seeking. In fact, some of the organizations are spoiled because of too many rituals, too many functions and all that. There is no essential work. So therefore, this criticism is well-meaning to the extent that it points out some of the excessiveness of the ideas of George Elton Mayo. Nevertheless, Elton Mayo has a very great place in the history of ideas on organization management and by adaptation in public administration. I think without having his understanding of the nature of organization and the nature of man in the organization, nature of the organization relations, and the value of informal communication, informal organization, and the incentives and the ventilation therapy, listening to the views of the employees, participative management. This is yet another contribution of me. I think the whole industry is now talking about participative management and employee empowerment. These are all ideas which are essentially based on the signal ideas or the foundational ideas of George Elton Mayo. Therefore, we can conclude by saying that George Elton Mayo had a lasting place in the theories of management and approaches to management. In this module, we have come to understand what is human relations theory, what is its place in the theories of management, what is the sequence in which it has come to take shape, what are its major contributions, what are some of the major criticisms against this. These are the things we have come to discuss in this particular module. I'm sure that you would have gained some understanding of these things. Thank you.